What's going on YouTube? It's Giga here, and today I wanted to bring you all something a little bit different. With NAIC coming up in a couple days, and this being the biggest season of all time for regionals, I really wanted to talk about what I bring in my backpack for a regional. I know it is the end of the season, but I fully expect this sort of pace to keep up, and as we get a lot of newer players, I just thought it'd be helpful, one, to talk about the things that I bring, some things that I don't, why not, and also just some tips and tricks to help you out during your first regional. So obviously number one is having a good backpack. I don't really think what kind of backpack it matters. I just like this one because my old job gave it to me for free, and I covered up their logo because they laid me off, but it does everything that I need it to do. It has enough space up top, and it has a laptop compartment. That's just a personal thing for me. It's just given the fact that regionals usually will go until late in Sunday night. If I do well, and I potentially have to change my flight to the next day, I want to make sure I have my work laptop with me just in case that I need to stay kind of an extra day. First thing you're going to need is obviously your Nintendo Switch, right? We're here to play Pokemon on the Switch, and you definitely need that. And if all you bring is a Switch and your ID, you're technically all set because that's all you need for check-in. Just some quick little notes about this. I don't know if it's obvious, but I do have these like little plastic covers on the Joy-Cons. I initially had them on my Switch as well, but I took them off. During events, there are docks, and they're kind of those like L-shaped ones. I'll put a picture up here for the screen, and so I couldn't put the case that I had on my Switch into that dock, so that's just something to keep in mind. If you want to bring a case, I know other people have found cases that do work, so they can keep their Switches protected while there. I just use a standard carrying case for that, and that kind of handles all of my needs. Next up, this one's a little optional, but I always bring headphones with me. You can plug them in. It's important to note that you have to use plug-in headphones. You cannot use wireless ones for events. That's just to prevent cheating. So I always bring these with me. I like them. I like to get really focused when I'm playing, so having sort of that outside noise away from me is really nice. So yeah, headphones definitely a must, but remember, if you're bringing them, they have to be wired. Next up, similarly, this is an optional one. I bring a controller with me. It has to be an official Nintendo Switch Pro controller. Also, once again, it does have to be wired. So there are the two kinds of controllers, right? There's the fully wireless that can be plugged in, as well as just the ones that are wired only. So wired only, I tend to prefer. If you're bringing a wireless that can be plugged in, you're going to sometimes run into issues where even if you plug it in, it's not going to work. And there's certain settings that you have to try, and even then it doesn't guarantee. I will talk about those settings in a little bit, but yeah, if you're bringing a wireless controller that can be plugged in, even if you adjust to account for everything, it might not necessarily work. So definitely something to be aware of. Moving right along, I always bring a battery bank with me. I like to just have this fully charged. It's mainly just in the event that I need it for my phone, right? You're going to be checking your phone a good amount of the day, mainly for things like pairings and also just to see what your friends are up to. So having some sort of good power bank is always important. Also, for things like the PC, which I can talk about in a little bit, you don't have access to docks, so having a way to charge your Switch is really, really nice. So next up, this is something that I really like to use. This is a pad for taking notes. I just like to take notes. I don't like to waste paper. All it does is you can write something and reset. And so this is kind of my preferred note-taking method of choice. It also means that I don't have to waste paper. But because of the fact that it is an electronic screen, I do have to ask a judge at the beginning of every event if it's allowed. They do have the right to say no. I was at Knoxville and they said I couldn't use it. So just in case, I always bring a notebook as well. I like to take notes. I know some people don't. And so having that sort of flexibility is good for me. This thing is also really nice because when I bring my bag, and like I said, it has that laptop compartment, I can just slide this in there too, and it's perfectly ready to go. And it's a good thing to have for my team sheets. Next up is this clear plastic protector. It's really good for team sheets, right? You have to keep your team sheet for the entirety of the day, and so having a way to protect it is usually really nice. I know at some regionals they have provided these for all the players, but having your own just in case I think is really important. All right, moving right along, the next thing that I like to have is just a charger. Obviously, it's for my Switch. It also is really nice. This is a laptop charger, so that way I only really need one cable. This is mainly for events like the PC where you're not going to have access to docks, so having sort of something else to help with that is important. And so I'm going to quickly take a break. I want to like bounce back on this while we're talking about it, the PC itself. So PC or like side events usually will happen the day after the main event, so usually Sundays. And so these will be things like I said, a PC or just like small sort of circuits. And with these, you don't have docks. I've talked about it before. So one thing that other people bring that I don't is essentially a dock that they can use with the idea that you can plug in a cable and still have access to a controller, which like normally you wouldn't unless you have access to that jack. Really, it gives you access to the bottom USB port on your Switch, so you can do things like plug in and charge while you're playing, or obviously, like I said, have a controller. So that's not something that I personally bring. I wanted to talk about this at some point, so this is kind of the point where I'm going to talk about it. But those I think are really important. Just if that's something that you want to use for a PC, I know obviously people have comfort or like a side event for that. Finally, and most importantly, is plushies. Definitely make sure to bring as many as you feel comfortable with or as many as you want. It's something I started recently doing, and I think it's been really fun. It's kind of fun just to have Pokemon with you. So that's everything that I usually bring in my bag. Sometimes I'll bring snacks and other things, but I don't just have any right now. It's important to note that lunch breaks very much depend event to event. Some events you will have a lunch break, some you won't. Usually you're limited to the food available in the venue. So having either some kind of snack or something with you is always really, really nice. So that's everything that I bring in my bag. There's also some tips and tricks about like your Switch at the event that I'm going to talk about real quick. So I'm going to hop over to the in-game view and talk a little bit about some of those things. All right, now we're in the Switch itself. I just want to quickly talk about one little thing. I mentioned the controllers earlier. So if you're using a wireless controller that you want to plug in, what you need to do is you want to go down to, where is it? You want to go down to controls and sensors, and you want to make sure you have this Pro Controller wired communication on. So during a regional, your Switch is going to be in airplane mode the whole time. And this is one thing that you can do to help with those wireless controllers that you need to plug in. It is also important to note, I did mention it earlier, that just because your controller is plugged in and is a wireless one and you have the setting on, it doesn't mean that you will be able to use that controller. So I unfortunately could not use the controller that I've used before when I was playing in in Sword and Shield. So that's something to keep in mind, right? Like this is different from Sword and Shield and how they do things. So if you have a wireless controller that you would plug in during Sword and Shield, it might not work. You can turn this setting on in order to try and have a better chance. But like I said, it does not guarantee that it will work. So this is the main quick setting for those of you that are wanting to use a wireless controller. And then let's just quickly hop on back so I can talk about some channel updates real quick. All right, so that was that. I really hope that this was helpful, especially for newer players or also for players that are a little bit older and are stressing to pack very last minute. But now I wanted to quickly shift away from that and talk about kind of the channel as a whole. I haven't been uploading a lot, as I'm sure some people have noticed. I just have been really busy, and it's been kind of hard in order to upload for when the content I feel like isn't really relevant, right? Like it's a closed team sheet ladder when the circuit is an open team sheet. So I was really thinking what I want to do, because I do I mean, not sort of, I really love content creation, and I think it's a lot of fun, and it's what really brought me back into the game. So I think what I'm going to start doing is, I've thought a lot about this, is I do want to start uploading again in terms of laddering. And I think what I'm going to do, as some people saw, is shift those to live broadcasts. So I want to do live broadcasts where I'm playing on ladder, having some fun with it, using teams people want me to use, and also using that live segment for things like shiny hunting, as well as like doing fun things in games. So having sort of those communal experiences. So having really the live section be what this channel was currently, as well as some things like shiny hunting, which I know that I've streamed before on Twitch. As for the content itself, I want to do more stuff like this, where it's edited videos more in a stylized format. And so like really trying to create content that I think is engaging and fun, and also still having sort of that original aspect of my channel in the live component, because I think that that's really what's important, right? Building that community, growing. And so that's kind of the plan for things. Please let me know your thoughts. Obviously, if you have any sort of ideas for videos or things you want me to cover, I've like done a lot of different things, and I'm really happy to put in the effort. So that's kind of what you can expect. I'm really looking forward to it. And that's all I got. And so with that, until next time, I hope all of you are wonderful, and I'll see you then.